Question number 8. Wrong about the lymphatic drainage of intestine. Tubercular ulcers or horizontal ulcers, typhoid ulcers or longitudinal ulcers, solitary lymphatic follicles are distributed throughout the small and large intestine. Brunner's glands are predominantly found in the ileum. Now this again is a question about the microanatomy of the small intestine. So we're back with the same diagram here. This is you seeing is a cut section of a small intestine. Towards the distal end of this small intestine you find is large oval lymphoid aggregates, and their longitudinal axis is along the length of the intestine. These are called Peyer's patches. This is a feature of ileum. In case of typhoid, Salmonella typhi that invades these Peyer's patches. So because of involvement of these Peyer's patches, there is ulcerations, and later on those ulcers will spread along the longitudinal length of the intestine. So this is how, because of the longitudinal arrangement of these Peyer's patches, these ulcers are longitudinal ulcers. Later on, what happens, healing and scarring, these will of course shrink, but they will not actually lead to obstruction of this lumen of the intestine. Now look the other way. Just like I told you about the arterial supply, the lymphatic drainage is also the same way. These lymphatics, they run transversely along this circumferential submucosal coat of the small intestine, and then they reach down into the mesentery like this. So these are the lymphatics draining the loops of the small intestine like this. So in case of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that infection that lodges here in this lymphatics. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis peculiarly damages these lymphatics. So what happens again, there are ulcers formed. Now these are transverse ulcers. These transverse ulcers are seen in case of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, or you can say tuberculosis. Now another thing is, because of healing, later on there will be contractions or the scarring tissue which actually shrinks, because this is a transverse ulcer, right? So when it shrinks after healing, it can lead to obstruction. Another thing I already told you before, that there are solitary lymphoid follicles scattered throughout the length of small as well as the large intestine. Even in the appendix also you find these solitary lymphoid follicles. These are present in both small intestine and large intestine. Now regarding Brunner's gland, I already told you that in the duodenum you find these large villous processes, finger-like projecting processes, and what is invaginating inside is the crypts of Lieberkühn. This is how you find is the lumen of the duodenum. Then there is lamina propria, submucosa, and then you have is the muscular layer, inner circular, outer longitudinal muscular layer, and then outermost will be the serosa. Don't forget what I told you about this. Brunner's glands, these are compound tubuloacinar glands found in the submucosa of the duodenum. On cut section you will find like this. These are acini. They are mucus glands, so they will have a basal nucleus, a flattened nucleus at the base, and they will not take good stain because they are not secreting zymogens. They're secreting mucin. Mucin is a neutral substance, so it doesn't take good stain. So remember now this point, that Brunner's gland, these are seen in the submucosa of duodenum, and these are compound tubuloacinar glands, and they do not take good stain, so they're pale colored. And more thing is, these are mucus glands. So have you understood this question number 8? Wrong about the lymphatic drainage of the intestine. Tubercular ulcers or horizontal ulcers, it's a correct choice. Typhoid ulcers are longitudinal ulcers, correct. Solitary lymphoid follicles are distributed throughout the length of the small and large intestine, is correct. Brunner's glands are predominantly found in the ileum. No, this is found in the duodenum. So the answer is D.